as web developers, we have so many skills at our fingertips that we can do so many different things. But we've been always thinking about one thing for the last. We've been thinking about building websites and web pages. But now, with HTML5 and a bunch of other technologies, we can really change the way we think about the stuff we build and think about making some money, about making some things that are actually really practical to people for the stuff that they want to do with their lives, instead of just going and looking stuff up. So today, we're going to take a look at what are web applications. We're going to try and answer that question. But I'll tell you right now, it's not a checkbox. It's not something we can say, yes, 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 you pass. Or, in the university, you pass, you fail, right? Like, you just can't do that with a web application because there's too many components. And I'm going to trip over this, too, because that would not be very much fun. All right. And I'm not going to move that because that'll get me in more trouble. All right, so let's try this. My name is Pete LePage. I'm a developer advocate at Google. There's my Google Plus profile, Pete LE. My blog is there. I'm kind of irregular on my blog, but I think I've got some fun stuff every once in a while. Plan for today, like I said, what's a modern web application? We're going to take a look at how we can make our apps great. What are the things that we want to do to make great apps that will make us stand out from the other apps that are out there and other sites, so that at the end of the day, how we share our stuff, our greatness with others, and maybe make a little money in the way. So what is a modern web application? When I think back to what web applications are and what they can do, well, one of the great things about web applications, and this has been true for the entire time that web apps have existed, but web apps have the power of the cloud, right? So they have all of that greatness that lives up in the cloud, whether that be access to all kinds of data, whether that's access to processing power that you just can't do on your computer, whatever it is. But all of that stuff that lives up on the cloud means that you can go from here to any other country in the world, to any other computer in the world, and you can still get access to that data, right? So the power of the cloud means we've got all of that data. But up until the last couple of years, we had great data, but we had really crappy user experiences. The only place we had great user experiences were on desktops or notebooks, and in the last couple, on phones, where people built native and client applications. So the power of the cloud plus native and desktop richness. That's what a modern web application is. It's taking the great that we have up in the cloud, mixing it with the beauty that we've got on our laptops, on our phones, on our desktops, or anything like that, and turning that into an application. And we'll talk about more sort of what the pieces there are here in a sec. But we can now do that because of one thing, HTML5, right? HTML5 really gives us all of the things that we really need to go build that. Now, when I say HTML5, I mean everything from the actual HTML5 spec, from the W3C to CSS to SVG to Canvas to all of that whole thing that people talk about when they say HTML5, because HTML5 has kind of turned into that same buzzword that Ajax turned into, and it just got claimed by a whole bunch of people and means, depending on who you ask, means something different to anybody. For me, it's the set of web technologies that really came to maturity since about 2010. So that's my definition. Gives us a good base to work with. Means a lot of the stuff we can play with. So let's take a look at a couple of web applications. Now, we're going to take a look at 3 web applications. This is actually a web app that you could go use today. This is an app called SpringPad. SpringPad is a tool for taking notes, kind of like Evernote, all that kind of stuff. Works in the browser. Notice that it doesn't look at all like what you think of when you go to a web application. There's no menu bar across the top. There's no navigation on the side. There's no ads. There's no footer bar. There's no big margins on one side or the other, right? It feels, I guess I'm not allowed to turn that way. Everybody see Zoolander? I can only turn one way. All right. I really can only turn one way. This is not going to be fun. All right, so I'm just going to point this way. Now, web applications have a really tight focus that allow users to interact and engage with the content to accomplish what they're trying to do. All right? When you think about that, think about the apps that you use on your phone, on your desktop. They let you do or accomplish something versus I'm going to go and spend 3 hours on Wikipedia when I only meant to look up one article, right? It's not about consuming content. It's about actively using, engaging, and interacting with content. Maybe creating something. That creating something may be buying movie tickets. That may be going and writing an article. Might be taking notes. But it's being that interactive in engagement. It's another app. This is my favorite web app right now. It's an app called Goji out of a group of, it's a startup out in New York City. And they're building, GOJEE is the .com is the URL. And they have a recipe app that is absolutely spectacularly beautiful. Like if you eat meat, which from what I can tell in this country is everyone, and you eat a lot of it, which I love, how you can not find this looking really, really tasty, want to go eat this right now, I don't know, right? Like this is, it's beautiful, full screen. This takes up the entire browser window, the entire thing. There's no margins on the side. There's like no, oh look, little picture and a whole bunch of text. It's steak with arugula and lemon parmesan. That's it, right? They've got a really tight, beautiful graphical focus. So they provide rich visuals without distracting the eye. So when you think about the apps that you're building, make them beautiful because we want to use and interact with beautiful stuff. We don't want to go use that web app that looks really ugly. It may work, but what would you rather? Something that's really ugly and works, or something that's just, you want to show off to your friends and say, I want to lick this, and it works, right? Like, come on. So they've done some really neat stuff with their thing. Now, the last one is an app from a company called 280 North, and it's a slide deck building app. Now, it's not the one I used for this, but this is an HTML5 web app that allows you to build slide presentations. That's kind of cool, right? You can effectively start doing everything that we used to require desktop applications for in the browser. If you use Google Docs, you've got the presentation software, you've got a word processor, you've got a spreadsheet, all of that stuff available to you in the browser, like just like you do. And this is beautiful. Like look at the stuff that they've got on here. You know, you've got the standard look, you've got new, you can do open, all the stuff that you'd expect from a desktop application. But for them, the key thing here is to use the technologies wisely, right? For something like this, I want to be able to move photos into this because I probably want to have some photos and some slides. We'll talk about how to do that in a little bit. I probably want to be able to have animations happen within my slides. Wouldn't that be great? There's all sorts of stuff that we want to be able to make sure that our users can do, and they feel like a desktop app, but we do that in a web browser. So the Chrome DevRel team, which is the team that I'm on at Google, decided that we wanted to take a couple days as a hackathon and write a web app that would allow us to go and sort of learn a few new things, play with some new technologies. And the app we wrote was something called DJ Breakpoint. How many people are familiar with Turntable FM? Okay, a couple of folks. Turntable FM is a music sharing-ish website. I say ish because you don't really go and download music from other people. But it's kind of like a virtual radio station where one person is the DJ, or there's a couple of people who are a DJ. They get to pick what songs play, and everybody else just hangs out in the room and listens. Go check them out. They've got a pretty neat web app, but it's all built using their back end is all Flash to play the audio. Their beautiful screen is all HTML5. So we wanted to build something kind of similar. So I've got DJ Breakpoint here. Now, we're not quite the great designers that we wish we were, but we can do some neat stuff. So I want to point out a couple of things. So I can go change floor. I like this floor better. Here's my little dude. So this is me. I just logged in. I've got a couple of different chat windows. So I've got a chat window here that I can go and talk to my other people. So hey, how are you? And sure enough, like I get the little chat bubble pops up above me. If there was somebody else in here at the time and they said something, it would pop up there. I can talk to the app. We'll talk about some of the speech stuff later. I won't demo that right now. I can drag songs in. So I'm going to get this out of full screen mode. And so here I've got one of my favorite dance songs right now, if you like dance music. I can drag this in. Sure enough, this is going to go in and start uploading the song. Starts playing the song, right? We get the visualizer going so we can see what's going on with the music. If there were somebody else listening to this right now, if there was somebody else connected to my computer, they'd hear the same song at the same time so that you get the connection. Oh, and then you have the little guy dancing. And he's actually dancing to the beat. He may not be dancing with the beat, because that was a little bit harder to do, but we got him dancing to the beat. So really sort of rich visual experience. We're taking up the whole desktop real estate, right? There's no margins on the side. It's all about a tight focus that gives you, all we do is go and play music. We don't try and do everything in here. So let me close this out. The sources for that, you guys can go download that and play with that. It uses Node and a couple other things, Web Audio API. Feel free to go play with it, go fork it, have fun with it. It's pretty fun. So how did we do and build this guy, or build this app? Well, the first question I have is building modern web applications. If you're not careful, your code's going to look a little like this. Right? How many people have gone to build a web app and after getting really complex stuff, you're kind of like, oh crap, what did I do? Why did I do this? Or you inherit somebody else's code and you're like, oh my god, why did they hire this? Oh, I understand why this developer doesn't work here anymore and I have to go fix this, right? Like, never very much fun. Well, when we start to build bigger and more complex web applications, we need a little bit of help. And MVC and using MVC frameworks is a pretty important way to do that. How many people are familiar with MVC frameworks? All right, I'm not going to do this slide, thanks. A couple MVC frameworks, if you haven't played with them, Sprout Core, Backbone, and XJS are some pretty standard ones, and they're pretty good ones. There's another set of CSS frameworks that you should definitely check out as well, Less and Sass. Both of them allow you to make more object-oriented and/or more complex CSS without pulling your hair out. You can do things like being able to have mix-ins or variables or all kinds of other stuff within your CSS so that you don't have to go and fight with like, oh crap, I need to get this to happen or I need this to happen or whatever the case is when you want stuff to happen dynamically. All right, so how do we create those great experiences? How do we create things like DJ Breakpoint? One of the first things that is super important and that I've heard from users over and over and over again is that the barrier to entry with so many web apps is too high or too difficult. So they come to the app and before they can even use the app, you ask them to sign up. And you want their name, their email address, you want their phone number, you want their sex, you want their age, you ask 6 billion things. You don't let them use the frickin' app. And, you know, I try to be good and not swear on stage, so I apologize if something else comes out. But, like, they try and they try, but we make it too hard for our users to use our applications. Think like SpringPad. Is there any reason that SpringPad needs a user to sign up to try the app? They're just going to try it. We're not necessarily going to ask them to save anything, right? If they're not necessarily going to save anything, why do they need to put their username and password in? Let them type something in and go like, oh wow, this is kind of cool. I want to save this. Then you ask them for a username and password or ask them to sign up so that they can get a little bit of an experience. All right? So make it easy to try without signing up first. If you are going to ask them to sign up, use some kind of OpenID authentication system. Google OpenID or the Google authentication, Facebook, Twitter. There's all sorts of other ones. You could use Passport if you really wanted, right? Like, use some kind of... Hey, come on. You might want to. Like, I'm just saying. Use an OpenID sign-up system because it makes life a lot easier. In fact, last Tuesday, so a week and a half or almost 2 weeks ago now, I guess, Google just introduced something called the Google Identity Toolkit. Basically, it's a set of JavaScript libraries and other libraries that you can use within your application that the login presents the user with, hey, do you want to sign in with your Google, Yahoo, Facebook, Twitter, and the user gets to pick which account they want to sign in with. They sign in, and you're good to go. You get their email address, and you get a token that says, yes, this user really is who they say they are. Now, one of the other great and I think important reasons to do something like this, and please do not put your hand up and answer this question, but how many people have a unique username and password for every website that you go to? Most people probably don't, right? And most people probably don't because it's a pain in the butt. Right? Like, I don't want to remember a different username and different password, or even the same username and different password on every single fucking site I go to, because it just gets painful. I can't remember all of those things, even if you have the browser password remembering turned on. You're never going to remember that stuff. So by not having that on and allowing them to use their single sign-on credentials, they don't have to remember all that stuff. If they need to change their password, they change their password in one place. They don't have to go remember to change their password on every single website, on their bank, on their, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. So it makes it really easy for users to sign up. Oh, I just need to do this? Okay, sure. Done. I'm signed in. Great. Using responsive layout is another great one that we encourage folks to do. How many people are familiar with responsive layout? All right, couple. How many people would love for their web app to work on a tablet? Most people. How many people would love it if they had to do very little extra work for their app to work on a cell phone? Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Well, with responsive layout, you can. So as I go and use this app, let me just get out of full screen. So this is a slide deck, and it does deal with responsive layout. Let me just make this a little smaller. So sure enough, as I change the browser window size, the icon, or the item that's selected gets smaller. Eventually, the phone gets selected. So we can do that today using CSS queries, right? Great. That's awesome for our CSS, but wouldn't it be nice if we could do it for JavaScript? Now we can. All right? There's a new set of HTML5 APIs that allow us to determine the same set of queries that you can do with a media query in CSS. So if window.matchMedia only screen and max width 480 pixels matches, then you go and put in your JavaScript that you want to put in there. Maybe you're going to go and do an asynchronous JavaScript call and pull down the set of JavaScript files. Maybe you're only going to do a call to a certain set of JavaScript functions. Maybe you'll do a set of calls to whatever. But it allows you to go and provide the experience that you want to happen depending on what the browser looks like. We use this in a different app. We tried to use this. We decided that in DJ Breakpoint, we didn't really want it to work on smaller screens. We wanted to have that full screen experience. But we built an app called IO Reader, and IO Reader, io-reader.com, is a great app that shows that exact experience. And as part of that, we built a library called formfactor.js that'll actually help you do all of that stuff. So definitely worth checking out. One of the things I think is really neat about the web is that I can copy a link from me, send it to a friend, and my friend ends up at the same place that I was. And we can now do that more easily. You could do that in the past with hashes, and hashes were a little bit wonky sometimes. But using the HTML5 push state API, you can actually tell the browser, hey, I want you to go update the address bar so that it looks like I'm on another page even though I haven't done any navigations. We're using that for the slides. As I go back and forth, I can go click the back button here. Notice my number here changes, even though I didn't move a slide. So all we do is window.pushState, and you can say an attribute that you want to add, the title of the page, and then another attribute value that you want. You can listen for events to say, hey, I want to go and listen for any time the user hits the back or forward button, and I want to handle those. I want to make sure that those actually don't get pushed out to other folks so that the browser doesn't actually do the back and forward button. And then you've got the handle pop state event that says, all right, let's go do the right thing. So you pull in the right set of content so your page shows up in the way that you expect it. Again, this didn't really apply for DJ Breakpoint because, well, you're not really navigating between pages, but it did for IO Reader. I cut out the IO Reader demo just because I wanted to show some more I want to show more of the code because I think there's more cool code demos that are worth looking at. But Levi Routes is another library. Again, these slides will be available, so don't feel like you have to crazy write stuff down. How often have you gone to upload files and you want to upload an entire directory? You just came back from vacation, you want to upload a bunch of files. WebKit directory allows you to upload an entire directory. So I can go say select a directory, and I'm going to say I want to do my, let's see, other icons. Let's go for textures. You can click on that, and sure enough, it'll go and send to the browser the list of files and allow you to upload that entire thing so that as a browser, you can be like, great, thanks, I've got, or as an application, great, thanks, I've got all those files. Now I can go and handle all those files, import those into the user's picture directory, or maybe import all of those into Google Docs or something like that. So I can change the views. That's just a little implementation. But all I've gone and done is said, hey, when the directory select, which is this selected directory, has an onChange event, I want to go through and iterate through each target file. So that's each file that we're trying to upload. I just want to iterate through. I want to push out the relative path to that, so we can say, hey, this is the entire directory structure of that. You can actually even go through and get all of the file data there as well. You can drag stuff out of the browser, right? Normally, when we have files we want to deal with, let me just make this a little bit bigger. In a desktop application, I can drag it out, right? Let me drag it down here. Sure enough, I just downloaded, or am downloading at a very, very brisk pace here, this PDF. So you can imagine, like, hey, user, you've got some files, just drag them out of your application. And sure enough, there they are. I can download the song file. So let me pop over here. So if you can drag stuff out, you should be able to drag it in as well. And that's one of the things we did with IO Reader, or not with IO Reader, with DJ Breakpoint. I can go and grab an image, drop it in here. Sure enough, it gets uploaded. I can mouse over it. I can make things happen to it so that it appears in ways that I want. And all we have to do is go through, we use the File Reader API to say, hey, give me that list of files that the user just dragged into your application. Great, awesome. How many people use Gmail? A few? Yeah, okay. I guess the better question on this one is like, how many people don't use Gmail, but I won't ask that. So with Gmail, they allow you to drag and drop attachments so that you can just drag your files straight into that email. Awesome, easy way to be able to do stuff. And it goes back to that same set of file handling that we expect people to have. And, all right, so that's gone through a bit of the file stuff. How many people have heard of the File System API? Couple. One of the guys on my team, Eric Beidelman, just wrote a book on the HTML5 file system. Definitely worth checking out because the file system's really kind of cool in that we now have access to a real file system on the user's computer. It's sandboxed, so I can't go and read your resume or go read, your will or your banking documents or anything like that. But I can go store stuff on your computer easily with no problem, which means, hey, I want to create an offline experience, or maybe I want to cache video files offline or music offline so that you can go listen to stuff later, or maybe you might want to listen to it while online, but have a really fast, speedy connection on it. So the file system, we need to go and say Window, Request File System, and you have two options. You can either choose temporary or permanent. and it's actually called persistent. So temporary or persistent. Persistent is kept on the user's computer until they blow it away. Temporary is blown away, similar to caching when that session closes. So I've written a little function here that gets used by this save file. It takes in an array buffer, so an array of bytes of the file that we want to save, the file name, the type of file, and then a callback. Because remember, so much of HTML5 really is asynchronous calls. So like when I call save file, it's going to execute and return immediately, even though the file may or may not be saved. So to know when the file's saved, that's why I've got this callback here. So then to save the file, I call the file system object that I've already created, and I say root, because I want to get to the root of the file system, get file, file name, create, and then I go and do the write. So I create a blob builder, and in the blob builder, I append my array of data to it down here, and then do file writer dot write blob builder get blob. So take that stuff, write it to the file system. So I'm going to go set up my file system, which basically calls this request file system, and then helps if I actually click the button, save file. When I go and click on this, you'll notice up here my address has changed. So if you do this in Chrome, you can go check this out. Okay, again, I'll turn this way and look at that. The file system, :HTTP localhost. So there's how you can see how it's sandboxed. It's sandboxed per domain. Temporary I just created it in temporary. And sure enough, there's the file. And there's the file that I've just pulled down from the server. So you've got that ability to be able to go grab any files that you want to go deal with. All right. Making it work offline. How many people went to this morning's offline session? All right. I'm gonna skip this slide real fast. App Cache. If you haven't checked out App Cache, it's the easy way to get applications to work online. It allows you to store the files offline. Using IndexedDB, file system, and web storage to store the data so that you've got data available offline. Using tracking the online and offline status. You probably saw me do that in the last session if you were in the last session. All right, so let's move on to persistent data. Persisting users' data. How many times have you guys gone to a web form, filled out some stuff, and then you went to submit it, and either the network was down, their server crashed, your machine crashed, and you just lost everything you typed into that web form, and that web form was not fun to fill out, right? Like, that kind of sucks, doesn't it? Yeah. Web applications should allow you to store that data so that as the user starts typing, you store that until it's ready to go and it's submitted. So I'm going to go in and, hello, Argentina, right? Now, notice as I was typing, this autosave text area input at Monday and provides a date gets saved for me. So it tells me that this is autosaving. Well, because what I've gone and done is I've actually gone and added an event listener to all of my form elements that on input, they're going to go and do a local storage and store that data from that form to the local storage. So that way, if I go, and just for sake of ease, go do this, right? So popped over, restore autosave, it pulls it out of the local storage. That way the user hasn't lost anything, right? We want to create better experiences for our users because the better the experience is, the more they're going to use our applications. The more they're going to come back to our web apps and they're going to say, oh yeah, that web app behaves like I think it should. So sure enough, I want to go use it. Lawnchair is a simple JSON storage utility that works across a whole bunch of browsers as a polyfill and says, hey, I'll use whatever's available to me to store the data that I need to store. All right, you guys all saw the demo this morning, right? All right, so what am I going to say today? And don't try and get me to say anything in Spanish because that's just not going to work at all. I will. So I did this demo a little while ago, so I'll try this one. the rain in Spain. So last time I tried this, it came back and thought I swore at it. So what's happening right now is the browser's going and sending that clip of audio up to the cloud, up to the Google servers to figure out what I had to say. It's taking a little while because, well, the network connection is, yeah, it's kind of slow. You should have seen us this morning before the demos, because it worked last night when there was nobody here, and then you guys all got here, and we went, oh, crap. Okay, let's try it once more. Hello, Argentina. Let's try that one. It was a little bit easier. So the cool thing about the web audio, or the speech, there we go. Sweet, it did work. All right. So to get this to work, you just need to simply add this x-webkit speech attribute to your elements. But not only do you get back just the thing that it plunked in there, but you also get back all of the things that it thinks you might have said. So it thinks with 97% confidence that I said, hello, Argentina. But there's a 0% confidence, but it's possible that I said, hello, Argentina versus, or hello, W, which I'm, hello, I don't know, Argentina. So some of the other things that I've seen it do, it comes back with some really fun ones sometimes. Go play with it, because it's kind of fun. Anyways, I'm going to move on because I don't have a lot of time. Notifications. Keeping your users informed as to what's going on so that you know and they know whether their app is open or not, whether they've got the page visible or not, that, hey, maybe a new mail has come in or something like that. Gmail is using this today to show when you've got a new mail. So I'm going to just show a simple notification. Oh, I got to be out of full screen mode. And you get this little guy that pops up here, right? So it just pops up, goes away after a little while. And the reason it goes away after a little while is so to create a notification, I say, window, WebKit notifications, create notification. I provide a picture, a title, and some text. And then to clear it, I want it to automatically clear after 6 seconds. So I do a set timeout, create an anonymous function that says, hey, pop up, just cancel, so clear after 6 seconds. But you can also do more complex ones, right? Because sending some text and an image and a title, kind of boring, right? Wouldn't it be cool if you could do things like, oh, I don't know, put a video in there? Now, I made this video a little too big. Oops, sorry. Made this video a little too big, but sure enough, I put Big Buck Bunny, the video, in a notification. So you can have people get notified with videos. I'm not quite sure why you'd want to do that. But, you know, sometimes it's fun to do the things that... anyways. All right, let me close Big Buck Bunny. All right. And then one of the last ones I want to talk about is treating performance like a feature, because performance really is... really is a key part of a web application's feature set, right? Because if an app is slow, nobody's going to want to use it. Now, there's a couple of things that I'll mention. So app cache isn't just great for making the app work offline, but it's also great because all of a sudden, it's here, where I have a very not fast network connection, instead of having to pull all the resources down from the server, it pulls it off my local computer. So all of a sudden, I just went from having a really, really slow connection to pulling it right off my computer instantly fast. So using app cache as a performance tool is another great thing. If you're serving a lot of files from your application, there's another reason to use app cache, because all of a sudden, it doesn't need to pull those files every single time. Even if you use caching, and you're pretty aggressive with your caching, you still have the users pulling files on a regular basis. Storing data locally, using CSS3 animations and transforms, right? So we often use jQuery or something like that to do our animations, or there's a bunch of animation libraries out there. But using the CSS3 ones are so much better because they're hardware accelerated. I go and move my guy over here, and sure enough, it just moves complete with hardware acceleration. Not only that, like that's just a 2D kind of lame, oh look, I can move my margin a whole bunch over to the left, but you can do that 3D stuff where you get image is just completely falling apart and moving in 3D frames and all of that. All right. So older browsers. How many people have to support an older browser? Yeah, a bunch. So there's something called polyfills. Polyfill is a product that you can buy in the United States. It probably translates down here to something a little bit different. But you know when you're renting an apartment or a house or something like that, you put a hole in the wall, and the landlord's coming the next day to do the inspection because you're about to move out, and if he sees that hole, he's going to charge you a whole bunch of money so he can fix it. So you go and you fill that hole yourself. That stuff you buy at the hardware store is called a polyfill. Or you just take a whole bunch of flour, water, and some whiteout. Works really well, too. But you can't use flour, water, and whiteout for polyfills on the web. There's a whole great list of polyfills at this URL. Grab the link off the slide, or just go do a search for HTML5 polyfills. There's a huge, fantastic list. And the great thing about polyfills is they fill those holes so that you don't have to think about them, worry about them, or deal with them. They take away all of the crap so that you write code according to the spec and standard, and they make it work in all of the browsers. Kind of cool like that. There's polyfills for like rounded corners so that you can have rounded corners in IE6. There's polyfills for local storage. There's all kinds of great polyfills. There's also Chrome Frame. If you need to make your web app work in IE6 or in an old browser that some people are still using, Chrome Frame is another great tool. Basically what it does is it inserts itself as a plug-in to Internet Explorer, and when you tell it to use Chrome as the rendering engine, the user sees Internet Explorer as their browser, but it's actually using Chrome as the rendering engine. So you get all the performance of Chrome and all the look of IE. So for users, this is great because some users aren't allowed to upgrade their computers. If they sit in an enterprise environment, they just can't upgrade. They're not allowed. They don't have the permissions on that computer to get themselves off. Maybe they're running Windows XP, 10 years old. They can't get off. So using Chrome Frame is one way around that. To pop Chrome Frame up, you can just use that meta tag. There's a couple other things. There's a bunch of other helpful libraries that I tend to like and use quite a bit. HTML5 boilerplate. Great just sort of boilerplate for setting up your initial HTML5 page. Modernizer for doing feature detection to determine whether a feature is supported in a browser or not before you start using it. Right? Hey, does this browser support local storage? Oops, no it doesn't. Guess I shouldn't store stuff in local storage. Or, oh, yes it does. Great, happy camper. How many people have seen this meme or remember this meme, right? Like 1, 2, profit. And nobody really knows what 2 is. Well, I'll tell you my secret to number 2. All right, and this is only my secret. The other people may have their own secret, but it's the Chrome Web Store. The Chrome Web Store is a great thing for web developers and community alike. It just became available here in Argentina on Thursday, so it's only like 3 days old now, and it's about making it easy for customers and consumers and users to find applications and for you guys to get your apps in front of your users. Think about it this way. Remember Goji we saw earlier today? Go search, go to Google and type recipe app into the search engine. You'll get 35.7 billion results, right? Awesome, except, well, which ones are good, which ones are not, which ones are apps, which ones are. So the Chrome Web Store is that place to go list and have really fantastic applications. And for us, it makes it easy for us to get our apps into the hands of 160 million Chrome users. Now that 160 million number was the number we announced at Google I/O. It's probably gone up by 1 or 2 people since then. I would assume, and especially here, where you guys have such a higher usage of Chrome than the rest of the world. So, you guys can think about, wow, lots of users using Chrome, so it's an easy way. And all you're doing is building a web app and using the Chrome Web Store as a distribution mechanism and as a place to list it. It's just like a listing book. So this is a front page of the Chrome Web Store. You can see all the different apps there. But for us as developers, there's multiple monetization options. In-app payments is coming here relatively soon. In-app payments is fantastic because it means that you don't have to go and find some crazy payment provider. Google takes 5% and not 30. Kind of good compared to some of the other service providers out there. And you get the rest of the money. And the user doesn't get taken to some crazy other website and then has to come back and figure out what they're doing. They stay on the site that you're on. For us as developers, it's a $5 registration fee. That's just for us to make sure that we don't have people going and spamming the site with all sorts of crazy stuff. So $5, pretty easy to get in. No review or approval process. You list your app. It's posted and available, usually within a couple minutes, but it might take a couple hours on a bad day if there's a lot of people submitting stuff. No restrictions on advertising platform. No restrictions on the platform at all. You want to go build a Flash app? Have at it. Go stick it in the Chrome Web Store? Sure. I'd rather you do something with HTML5. I think that's a little bit cooler. But, if you want to build something in Flash, go for it. It's available in 41 languages around the world, including here in Brazil, or Argentina. Sorry. Uh-oh, crap. I was doing so well. I was like, crap, awesome. And now, I'm sorry, guys. I'll bring a baseball or a Nerf bat, and you can hit me with a Nerf bat a little later. Couple ideas how some folks have done. World Golf Tour, who went in there very early in the beginning, they saw people spending 147% more time than people who were just typing in the address into the address bar. They also spent 23% more money. I like when they spend more money on stuff that I built. Now I didn't build it, so I don't get that money, but if I did, that'd be nice. SpringPad, which is the app I was talking about earlier, they saw 100% more engagement from users. So users were spending twice as much time than people who just went to the address and typed it into the address bar. This is what it looks like from a user perspective. You open that new tab page, so every time you open a new tab page, sure enough, all of those apps that you've got installed are there. Things like Gmail or Goji, all of that stuff. Easy. It shows up in front of the user without them having to go, oh yeah, I meant to go do this. So how do we do it? It's real complex. 1, create a manifest file, and I'll show you what one of those looks like in a sec. 2, upload that manifest and a couple of images. So you need some screenshots, you need an icon, because you need that, you need that icon and graphics. And then you hit publish. Or, there's one other easy way to do it. Go to appmater.com. which we'll do this real quick because I think this is kind of fun. All right, AppMater. Well, maybe I'll do it real quick. So AppMater, it's going to bring up an address bar or a text box here in a sec. Go plunk the address of your app. Where is your app? HTTP. Heck, we'll use mine. Let me hit enter. It's going to go off. There's my manifest already created. It couldn't find any icons for me. I didn't have any sitting on my server. Everything's done. Like literally, I can now say, drag this to your desktop. See how that says drag? Right? Let me cut. Oh, that was what I wanted to do. Sure enough. Oh, I closed my window. All right. There's my manifest. That's what the manifest looks like. The name of the app, the description, the icons, the URLs, and permissions. It's that easy. Literally, it'll take you 10 minutes to get your app into the Chrome Web Store. We had about 10 partners local to here in Argentina who launched in the Chrome Web Store. If you guys have some really cool web apps, come talk to me afterwards because we want to feature and show off people who have awesome local apps here in Argentina and get them listed and say, hey guys, look at this cool stuff these folks are doing. So one last thing, because I'm almost out of time, if I'm not already out of time, I have one ask for you. If you walk out of today's session and you remember one thing, and I kid you not, one thing, remember one thing, it's this. Aim for a great experience. Because if you aim for a great experience, everything else will follow. You build something kick-ass, everybody's going to love it. All right? People will find it because their friends talk about it. People will use it because it's functional and it's fun and easy to use. So if you build a fantastic experience, you will be successful. Focus on that great experience and you will create great web applications. Guys, a couple quick links. You may have seen these before. Chrome status, HTML5 rocks. There's some really good links, but the most important thing, the link to these slides, I guess I really can only talk to... I'm not allowed to talk to that side of the room. I'm only allowed to talk to the wall today. The link to the slides is right there. With that, I'll say thank you guys very much. You guys have been awesome. I've had a blast here. So thank you. Have a wonderful day. Do I have time for questions or am I done? I have 2 minutes for questions if you guys have questions, and after that, I'll just hang out and answer other questions. Thank you. Question?